Please explain an algorithm and what are its features. So this is a very, very common question in interviews because you do algorithms all the time. In fact, that's pretty much what programming is. You start with one piece of data, you run it through operations, individual steps, and then you end with whatever transformation you've done on that data, sending the data to a server, retrieving it, whatever it is. Everything's basically an algorithm. And in the algorithm, you might have a for loop, you might have a while loop, you might have an API call. When you get asked this question, I think the interviewers want to know that you understand what an algorithm is, but more important to them is the feature section of this. So we'll get to that in a minute. Another way to think about algorithms is the transformation of data. So we put some data in, we do something, we do something, we do something, and at the end the data is transformed. Now, if you've programmed at all in the past, then you've probably done this in a very terrible and awful way. I've done it too. You change a string to a number because you can see that whatever data you got from a server is the number 3, but it's in a string, and you want to change that to an integer. I've done it, everyone does it. And in fact, another way is you might get a number, an integer, that you have to display on the screen, and to display text on the screen, it needs to be a string. So you would transform that integer into a string. So that's just a simple algorithm example, but that's the basic idea. Now, what are an algorithm's features, right? And this is the big ticket item. If you get this wrong in an interview or you can't answer, the other candidate is going to beat you because the following 3 items are absolutely crucial to have functioning software that doesn't crash and that allows developers to work together as a unit more efficiently. So the very first feature is to be clear. When I'm reading your code, I don't know what was in your head at the time. So I need to read the function names, the variable names, and I need to see a clear logical order with names of functions that represent what that function is doing, right? I don't want to have to get up out my chair and let my coffee go cold because I'm a developer. I hate social time. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go over and ask you stuff. I just want to see what you've written in code. So it should be very, very clear. Now, when you're in an interview, you don't have to explain it like this. You can just say it needs to be clear so other developers can understand it. That's enough. The second point is an algorithm needs to be efficient. All right, this is one I think people leave out a lot. They understand efficiency, but they don't seem to put it into these answers. Efficiency is basically doing as little CPU work as you can for that particular algorithmic process. So a classic example you get asked all the time in interviews is, here is an array of stuff. I want you to sort the array, remove variables, do something with the array. I want you to find this bit or that bit. What they're trying to get out of you there is the efficiency drive. They're saying, does this person know how to efficiently use resources? I would say if you're an indie developer, efficiency is not so important. Getting the job done is much more important. You can make things efficient once they're making money. That's just my take on it. But in a corporate environment, efficiency rules. Okay, finite is the final section. Your algorithm has to end at some point. It can't be an open loop that sort of does a bunch of stuff and then jumps over here to do this and then jumps over here to do this, depending on the results of each other. That's called spaghetti code, right? An algorithm has an in, it has an out, and that's it, okay? You can do stuff in between, obviously, but it needs to have an in and an out. So it needs to be finite, it needs to end somewhere. Now, if you were answering these questions in an interview, again, you don't have to explain it the way I do. It's enough to say the algorithm needs to be clear so other developers can read what's going on, including myself 6 months from now. It needs to be efficient, so I don't use more CPU cycles than are necessary, or RAM. And it needs to be finite. So we have an in, we have an out, and it's clear to everybody. If you're a beginner programmer, then you're probably a bit daunted facing a landscape of hundreds of languages and frameworks. What you need, even more than programming knowledge, is clarity around your learning journey. You need a map. A map that shows you what technical and non-technical skills are required as an employee, freelancer, or entrepreneur. And that's where my free guide comes in, Zero Dev to Hero Dev. It outlines top-level skills you need to become an employee, freelancer, entrepreneur, or any mixture of the three. If you want a map to success, then this guide is what you're looking for. Get it for free at imdev.net/hero.